The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Mourners trooped to the Aquino Mausoleum in Manila Memorial Park to visit the tomb of the late former President Noynoy Aquino. Camille Samonte is joining us live from Parañaque to give us the latest. Camille, can you give us an estimate on perhaps how many people are in line or are there to see the tomb of the late president?
Riza, about 300 Filipinos went here today at the Manila Memorial Park to pay their respects to the former President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III. As soon as the Manila Memorial Park opened its gates at 7 a.m., people came in and visited Aquino's tomb. Many brought yellow flowers, which are associated with the Aquino family. Some also lit candles and offered prayers for the late president. Other groups even traveled all the way from Bulacan and nearby provinces just to show their last respect to Aquino. Aquino supporters, meanwhile, also took the time to take some photos in front of PNoy's tomb and reminisce about the Aquino family's legacy as public servants.
Pinagdarasal ko na apat na lang silang magkakapatid na naiwan na sana ipagpatuloy din pa rin nila yung natutunan nila sa kanilang magulang, diba? Yung daang matuwid, naging honest, at ang pagiging simple nila. Talaga nakita ako na hindi sila nag-corrupt.
Talagang naniniwala ako na yung pangako niya na daang matuwid, yun talaga yung tumatak sa akin. Kasi nakita natin kung saan tayo nagmula noong 2010 at kung paano niya tayo iniwan. So talagang naramdaman namin yon na kami bilang mga ordinaryong mamamayang Pilipino.
Riza, authorities say that the public is welcome to visit the tomb of former President Noynoy Aquino here in Manila Memorial until 5 in the afternoon. Police enforcers were also deployed in the area to ensure peace and order. Riza?
Thank you. That was Camille Samonte reporting live from Parañaque. Navotas City residents, meanwhile, are allowed to pick their preferred vaccines. Meanwhile, as inoculations are ongoing, Mayor Toby Tiangco says imposition of looser quarantine restrictions is not yet visible in the metro. Faith Del Mundo with the report.
NCR is not yet ready for relaxation of quarantine restrictions. That's according to Navotas City Mayor Toby Tiangco speaking at the Laging Handa public briefing. This even as Navotas has logged only 41 active cases in the city. Tiangco says the health department and other health experts have yet to release any data that supports any modification of the current quarantine protocols to a lighter one.
Wala pa po ako nakikitang datos magmula sa DOH o sa ating mga health experts dahil ito po ay isang health issue. Kailangan po natin makita yung datos.
Meanwhile, vaccination rollout for A4 and A5 priority group is still ongoing as long as there are available jobs. Tiangco adds that since April, walk-ins have been allowed and those inoculated were given the freedom to choose their own vaccines and their preferred schedule. As of June 26, Philippines has logged almost 1.4 million confirmed cases, 1.3 of which have recovered, while over 24,000 have succumbed to COVID-19. For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
Bataan is soon to be split into 3 districts. This comes after President Rodrigo Duterte signed RA 11553, which reapportioned the province into 3 legislative districts. Hermosa, Orani, Samal, and Abukay will comprise the 1st district. Balangas City, Orion, Pilar, and Limay for the 2nd district, and the 3rd district will be composed of Mariveles, Bagak, Dinalupihan, and Morong. Now, voters in the new district will be allowed to elect the representatives starting next year's polls. Bataan Governor Albert Garcia welcomed the enactment of the law and explained that this would increase the funds allocated for government projects in the province. Meanwhile, for a Senate Committee on Local Government Chairman Francis Tolentino, the additional district would ensure a more effective delivery of public services to Bataan. And we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Now here are the biggest stories we're following around the world. Developing vaccines that target the Delta COVID-19 variant will not be difficult, according to China's top epidemiologist, Zhong Nanshan. The variant first identified in India has a shorter incubation period, and those who are infected take longer to recover. Nanshan says current Chinese vaccines are effective against the Delta variant, and that China is now working on developing new vaccines targeting the latest variants.
在这个疫苗的问题上呢，现在我们也刚开完一个会，这个会呢就是说，在各个不同的类型的疫苗里头，都要研发针对的德尔塔病毒株的疫苗，就是你这个工艺啊，现在都成熟了，把这个免疫源就是抗原呢，就是说病毒株啊改一改，以后调整一下这工艺还是一样上，所以我觉得。 再研发这个针对德尔塔株这样的疫苗呢，是不会很困难。
However, the Delta variant that was first identified in India now appears to be dominating new infections in South Africa. Acting Health Minister Mamuloko Kubayi-Ngubaine said in a news conference that the country is now in its third wave of COVID-19 pandemic. She warned that the peak of the third wave would likely surpass its previous wave last January, when more than 21,000 daily cases were reported. However, the rollout of vaccines in South Africa has been slow, with less than 3 million out of the 60 million population already inoculated.
We are in the third wave. We continue to see infections rapidly rising, and the number of these infections continue to rise, and Gauteng continues to be the epicenter of these new infections. In the last 24 hours, there are 18,762 new cases, which represents a 25.5% of positivity testing rate.
A youth representative from the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region calls for global cooperation in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking at the 47th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, Beijing NGO Association for International Exchanges Representative Judy Chan Kapui noted China's continuing efforts against the pandemic, saying that China has been donating COVID-19 vaccines to countries in need, but that this effort cannot be done by one country alone. Thus, Kapui urged countries to unite in the fight against COVID-19.
The world has to join hands to win this global battle. So instead of making everything political, I think it is time for the leader in the West to step up and join the leader in the East to help the rest of the world to get much needed vaccine. Rich and poor nations, allies and competitors, no matter what their cultural or ethnic background.
The World Health Organization is once again raising concerns about poor countries not being given enough supply of COVID-19 vaccine. This as the COVID situation in low-income countries, especially in Africa, have become dangerous. Let's listen in.
The world, as international community, as the world is failing. As global community, we're failing. We're repeating the same mistake as HIV/AIDS, which took 10 years to reach the low-income countries after it was already rampant in high-income countries, and the H1N1 vaccines that was delivered to low-income countries after the pandemic, after the epidemic was over. Do we want to repeat the same thing? Can't we learn from what happened in the past. The whole world is sick and tired of lockdowns. You can see it from how the citizens of the high-income countries are behaving now. They are so happy. It's opened up. Restaurants are full. The streets are full. Everywhere you go, you see crowds as if there is no pandemic. Then you go to countries where there is no vaccine access, still lockdowns. The problem now is supply problem. Just give us the vaccines. You know, some people were asking me about vaccine hesitancy in Africa. And then I say, that's not the problem. There is no vaccine, so why do we even talk about vaccine hesitancy? The problem is vaccine supply. And even now, it's not the absorptive or the delivery problem that's a problem. There is no vaccine. You can't even talk about delivery or absorption capacity when there is no vaccine. As we have said, new variants are expected and will continue to be reported. That's what viruses do. They evolve. But we can prevent the emergence of variants by preventing transmission. It's quite simple. More transmission, more variants. Less transmission, less variants.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 1 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on a Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.